We're going to start by creating a Word document. Now, if you don't have a Microsoft Word on your system, you can go into our course and you can click on the Office 365 download site, which should take you here. And then you can enter your school email address. So this would be your NMC email address. And you can kind of walk through the steps and download the Office software for free. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you have Word, and you can see mine is on my taskbar. If yours is not, all you have to do is click on Search, enter Word, and then you can launch your Word app by left clicking on it. Okay, we want a blank document. And the first thing we're going to do is save this. And if you are on campus, okay, you're in one of the computer labs, it's really important that you save either to a jump drive or to a Q drive. The Q drive is for you. It's a network partition where you can save your work. And obviously a jump drive is something that you can take with you. On campus, you do not want to put anything in documents because when you shut your computer down, it will get deleted. If you are at home, it does not matter to me where you save your file as long as you can find it. And what I've done in my document folder is I created a CIT 178 folder. I clicked on New Folder and entered CIT 178. So this is where I'm going to go ahead and save. You can see I already have one there. I'm going to go ahead and enter the name, and I'm going to replace what I have. Then, once you have this document saved, what you're going to do is highlight the headings, right-click and copy. Now, you can also press Control and the letter C if you like the shortcut. And then I'm going to paste. So I can either right-click and paste, or I can press Control and the letter V as in Victor, or I can just hit the paste button. And what we're going to start with is we're going to basically follow the directions and fill in information following our headings. So our next step is going to be to launch SSMS. Now, I happen to have mine down here on the taskbar. What you're going to need to do is click on Search, SSMS. If you want to add it to the taskbar, you can right-click, and then you should be able to pin it. Okay. And what I'm going to do is just left-click to launch it. Once you have it on the taskbar, you can click on it down here too. Once it launches, you're going to see something like this. And it's going to want you to connect to the server. We are using Windows authentication. And so all I should have to do here is hit connect. Okay, and so at this point, I've got the Object Explorer visible. If yours is not, you can go into the View menu, and you do need to turn it on. Okay, pressing F8 will also turn it on. But this is where all your database objects are, so it's kind of important that we have access to them. And what we're going to be looking at are the databases that we installed last week. So we're going to go ahead and expand databases by clicking the plus sign. And then you should see an AP database examples. You will not see my fictional business because that's my final project example. But you'll see Northwind, product orders, pubs, and worldwide importers. Okay, those are all database files that we installed last week. What we're going to do is take a little closer look at the AP database. So we're going to click on the plus sign. And we see a bunch of folders representing different types of database objects. And we are going to click the plus sign next to tables. Now, database tables by default all begin with DBO. That is the schema. DBO stands for database object. And then there's a dot, and then there's the actual name of the table. So the first question that we needed to answer was how many tables are in the AP database. Okay, and so we can simply count them. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So then we're going to come over here to our Word document, AP tables equals, and we're going to key in 7. The next thing that we need to determine is how many columns are in the vendor table. So here's our vendor table. Let's click on the plus sign. See, we have columns. Click on the plus sign. So each one of these is a separate column in the table. And columns are where you store data. So each one of these represents a little piece of information that we can store. Columns are organized into rows. So if I show you the data from vendors, if I right click and I select the top 1,000 rows, it actually generates a little query for me. But you can see I've got my columns, and each one is storing a little separate piece of data. And then I have my rows, and a row has related columns. So for this first one, vendor 1, this is the US Postal Service row. So it's got their address, the city, the state, the zip code, everything related to that particular vendor. So the question is asking, how many columns are in the vendor table? So all we really have to do is count them. Now you'll notice some of the columns have little keys next to them and some of them do not. So the column that has a black key, that would be a primary key. So that is a very special column. It is a unique identifier of the row. So you can see vendor ID is all unique numbers. There are no duplicates there. And each vendor has their own ID. So that is a primary key. That is a type of column. And then you'll notice that we have a couple of white keys. So those are called foreign keys. A foreign key is the primary key in another table. So we have default terms ID and default account number. When you take the primary key of a table and you put it into a table like vendors, it becomes a foreign key. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about keys later, but those are also types of columns. So you have to count all of them. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now we're going to take another look at these columns. And if you look to the right in parentheses, it's going to identify if the column is a primary key or a foreign key. Okay, so besides the keys next to the column names, it's also trying to tell you in the parentheses whether it's a primary or foreign key. Okay. After that is the data type. Integer is a whole number with no decimal places. Variable character is basically any letter or number. And in this case, the maximum size is 50. So it can be from 1 to 50 characters. Okay, you'll notice that down here we have character 2. So it's not variable character. Okay, it's character 2, which means, again, it can be letters or numbers, but the difference is this is always going to be 2 characters. Whereas variable character, it can be from 1 to the maximum. Okay, so that's the difference. You'll notice down here we have a couple more integer. And what the question is asking is, in our vendor table, how many columns have a data type of integer? So we have 1, 2, 3. So that would be our answer. Now it's asking for character columns. Well, we have 2 types of character columns. We have variable character and we have regular character. And so to answer this question, we need to include both of those types. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now it's asking about primary and foreign keys. So in the vendor table, what is the column name for the primary key? Okay, well, it's the black key, and it says PK here, which means primary key, so it is vendor ID. And then for the foreign key, we have 2 of them. Okay, we have default terms ID, and we have default account number. Now, the only thing we didn't really talk about yet as far as the columns go is the setting of not null versus null. So not null means you have to fill it in. So if we were going to add data to this table, go down to the first empty row and start typing. If it says not null, we have to fill it in. So we have to fill in vendor ID. We have to fill in vendor name. But then we get over to address 1 and 2, you'll notice they say null. So if it says null, that means it can be empty. So we don't have to fill in the address. But then we get to city, it says not null, so we have to fill that in. So not null means it's required, and null means you can skip it.